the monkey's paw closes once again. So it's been a bit of a weird week with Nintendo Switch news because we've had a few things come out which have kind of muddied the waters a little bit. 3 things I kind of want to go over in this, all right? So bear with me. We're going to be looking at a few sources online and then just kind of chatting about it, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on these revelations and what I kind of think it means going forward for the Switch 2 launch. So the first thing is no press outlet is getting a version of the Switch 2 early for review, which means that before anyone spends their money on launch day, no one will have a full review of that console, which is a bit of a concerning take. And it's not normal for this to happen. Normally there's reviews ready to go on or just before launch so that people who are going to spend their hard-earned money can make a considered choice with it. We see it all the time with games. There's usually embargoes in place for them. Myself, I've been involved with some game reviews where I've had to make sure I don't say anything about it until that embargo date is lifted. It's the same with hardware. However, this time round, not a single outlet is going to have a version of the Switch 2 in their hands early, which means that if you're on the fence, you're going to be waiting a little bit until after launch before you can actually read a review or watch a review and make your mind up on if you want to get one or not. Now, Nintendo have said this is due to the fact that there is a massive day one patch which is required for the console to, work optimally. But even still, it's a bit weird that they're doing this. Normally, it would be a cause for concern. I've been hands-on with the console and I know what it plays like, and I'm already really excited for it, and I was going to get one regardless. However, having played the console, I know full well that I'm making a smart decision here. Well, I say smart, it's still money I'm dropping on a games console, but it's not a wasted investment, let's say. The thing that is going to be impacted by this is third-party games. With no hardware to play the games on, no one's going to get a review of how some of these third-party games play and feel until after the console has launched, which can then cause issues with that FOMO, I guess, of picking up titles on launch day, because some people may want to wait a little bit and see how games play. Games such as Cyberpunk 2077, which had a notoriously bad launch when it first came out many years ago. People want to know if this game is going to actually run properly on this. Now, from the preview events, I can say that yes, it does. I've had my own issues with it, but it still runs. However, people are going to be wanting a bit more detail from it, and waiting for a full review of that game is going to take a few days at least, unless you've got someone working overtime day and night to play the game a substantial amount before they can write their content on it. It's not going to be a one and done thing. It's not going to be one day we'll get the console on day one, next day all the reviews are going to be out for it. To do a proper in-depth review is going to take a little bit of time with it, so it's a bit weird that this is happening like this. And it's across the board as well. It's not like some outlets are being left out of this. Every major, or every outlet I should say, is being left out of this. Not a single company, not a single YouTuber, not a single website, anything is getting a version of the Switch 2 early. I'm not sure why Nintendo feel that that patch is essential for it, because what if you play the Switch 2 without an internet connection to start off with? What happens then? So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. It is going to be a very weird sphere going forward for the first few weeks of Switch 2 content anyway, where everyone is scrambling for that, early gotcha moment for views and clicks. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the long run for Nintendo. The next one is Nintendo doing a little bit of backtracking on some stuff. So when they first announced the Switch 2 and all the hardware specs for it, they mentioned VRR for it. What that means is variable refresh rate, and essentially it means that the gameplay that you're going to be experiencing is going to be a lot smoother, a lot less screen tearing. I'm not going to go into the full technical breakdown of what variable refresh rate is. There's a lot of videos out there that you can watch for a lot of more experienced and more technically minded people. Digital Foundry are a great place to check out for information like that. But essentially, layman's terms, it's going to make it a much smoother visual experience with a lot less stuttering and a lot less screen tearing. When Nintendo first announced the Switch 2, like I said, they announced that it was going to support VRR. They've now backtracked on that, and it's only going to support variable refresh rates in the handheld mode. Having played handheld, I can say, yeah, it was a really smooth experience. Great, loved it. But it not being there in a docked mode means that games could feel different when you're playing them docked to handheld. Now, is this a massive concern? Not really. And the reason I'm saying not really is because when the PS5 first launched, it didn't have VRR there from the get-go. That came later in an update. Hopefully, this is something that Nintendo can work out and they can push a patch over for it. But it begs the question, what else was a little bit wrong with those spec sheets initially? Was there anything else in there, or was this just the only thing that was kind of standing out as being the problem? I really hope that it was just an oversight and nothing too in-depth, because VRR isn't something that was going to sell the console. It wasn't going to be a make or break feature for it, but it is a nice thing to have. Knowing that it can come in a future update, great, cool. Well, I just hope that that update doesn't take too long, because as someone who's experienced VRR in handheld, and you know, my PS5 supports it and my TV supports it, so I experience it there when I'm playing that. I think my Xbox has got it as well. I'm pretty certain it does. I want to be able to have a smooth experience across the board, and little things like screen tearing and jittering and stuttering can just take you out of that experience a little bit. Fingers crossed that it's going to come in a little update and it won't be too long before we see that support restored. I've left a link down below to the Nintendo Life article regarding this, which goes into a bit more back and forth, a bit more information on it. Okay, so the next one that I want to talk about, and the last topic we're going to talk about in this video, is game keycards. Now, I mentioned before how game keycards kind of signify the start of the end for physical media and physical ownership, because yes, you have a physical card, but it still requires you to download everything. A lot of people have been wondering as to why that is. Is it a cost-saving measure? Who knows? Something that happened recently did shed a little bit of light on that. Potentially, again, this is the one which, out of all three topics that I've mentioned in this video, that there's a little, well, I say little, massive asterisk by, because this isn't 100% confirmed to be the situation. However, the information provided would suggest it's this way. So this is the article from the Gamer website, which essentially goes over a leak that happened. Well, I say a leak, it was because of a hack to Arc System Works, where a lot of information got out there, and one of the things that was picked up was that game cartridge sizes for the Switch 2 were game keycard or 64 gig. There was no in between. No 8, no 16, no 32, just straight if you want a game keycard or a 64 gig cartridge, which is why people are now starting to think that companies are leaning towards that game keycard situation. And again, another massive asterisk here. Apparently the person that has leaked this information isn't 100% with all this stuff and hasn't got the best track record, so take this with a pinch of salt, okay? But it is an interesting way, and if it is true, it does kind of make sense to why it would be this way. From the Switch 1 era, we can remember that the bigger cartridge sizes were a lot more expensive for developers, which is why very few opted for that bigger size. I think one of the only games I can remember being on a massive 30, I say massive, it was 32 gigabytes in size, but in comparison to the rest of the Switch library, that's huge, was Witcher 3, because it had all the DLC and everything on it in one cartridge. And again, that was with CD Projekt Red, who have obviously done Cyberpunk, and that's on a 64 gig cartridge, so it kind of makes sense that they might have some sort of deal going on with Nintendo there. But for other developers who are in this situation now where they're developing games for the Switch 2, if it's not going to fit on a 64 gig cartridge and fill it, why would they bother? Or in general, why would they bother if the game keycard is going to be a lot cheaper, which means they can save money on manufacturing and potentially, fingers crossed, blue sky thinking, pass that saving on to the consumer. I doubt that'll ever happen, but still. But it's really interesting to see, and it kind of makes sense, and I hope that it's wrong. Obviously, it's a leak, it's information which isn't 100% confirmed, so no one really knows if this is true. It begs the question, why? Why would this be the case? And until it's 100% confirmed, I don't really want to comment on it, because it's not fair for me to jump the gun on this. At the moment, all of this is speculation based off rumors and leaks, and I don't want to become one of those channels where we just delve into every single leak that comes out and potential rumor, and then next week I'm having to backtrack on stuff. I don't want to do that. But if it does come to like the only cartridge sizes available to developers are game keycard or 64 gig, it's a very interesting move that Nintendo has made. So going forward with this generation now, the monkey's paw seems to close again with the Switch 2. Really hope the VRR situation gets sorted out and it's not too long before that support is brought back, and I really hope it was just an oversight of someone who was too keen with that spec sheet. I really hope that we do see more cartridge sizes come available if they aren't already, and good luck to everyone out there who is going to be rushing to get their Switch 2 content out there on day one. I know I will.